Hey, it's E.B. Moss, and this is episode 22 of season 2 of Insider Interviews. Now, this is also kind of a part 2 of episode 21, where I spontaneously grabbed 2 panelists from the recent streaming media conference in New York. I hope you'll hear that episode too, to learn a lot about AI from Robert Tercek and its impact on content. I'd also chatted with Evan Shapiro, who helped organize and MC the conference. Evan is a media cartographer. He's literally mapping out the entire landscape of where we are with media and advertising and what's going where dollar-wise. Hint, CTV companies need to look out for YouTube. I'm recapturing a little of what he shared in that episode about the connected TV landscape, and I'm adding more, like on where dollars are flowing to and from. He's so nice, I added him twice. Then, for the bulk of this episode, you're going to hear from an equally brilliant speaker with his finger on the pulse of influencers, creators, and digital media. And he's 17 years old. It's Braden Blacker, who's already working full-time at Fixated as one of the top social media managers and business strategists in the creator space, managing about 1 billion views a month. Hint, a big part of that? Yep, YouTube and Twitch and more. And he's still a junior in high school. Yeah, so hear a little more from Evan and a lot more from Braden Blacker. Hey, it's E.B. Moss. This is one of those ad hoc conversations. Hello, Evan Shapiro.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being very spontaneous. So you're really kind of running the streaming media conference. What are you seeing? What are you taking away?
I really do think the notion of interoperability, which sounds like this kind of general, obvious thing to talk about now. It's like synergy used to be. But that's just now table stakes. If you're going to compete against Google and Amazon on the connected television, forget on social,
right? Forget
on mobile, just on connected television. If you're going to compete against YouTube and Prime and Freevee,
yeah,
that's how you're going to have to operate. There's no way to compete in any other format.
You said that there was also new money from SMBs, from small and mid-sized businesses, who are now enabled at buying major streaming content.
The root thing is that 60% of people who buy video advertising in the United States buy only YouTube.
Okay. Yikes. All right.
So that money is coming to connected television. And these are small to mid-sized businesses whose budgets are as small as $1,000 per buy. But go up to $100,000, $250,000 per buy, right?
Yeah.
But this is also how a lot of P&G is bought right now. This is how a lot of Unilever is bought. And not on the SMB, but on the back end, direct from the platforms, from Google and Meta and Amazon. So the retail media budget is $6 billion. It's coming. It doesn't exist on television right now.
Yeah.
The SMBs doesn't really, so that's an additional billions of dollars. So, and that's a yearly number. That's not in total. So by the end of this decade, yes, there's a new $10 billion, I think, total addressable market coming to connected television. Do you want some of that, or do you not want some of that?
I want
right
some
now,
of that.
most of it's going to go to Google and Amazon.
Okay.
Most of it. But Meta, it doesn't play on connected television. That's an opportunity. TikTok does not yet play on connected television. That's an opportunity. Netflix doesn't really carry ads yet. That's an opportunity. But these windows are short, and for traditional media players, and even for someone like Apple, if they're going to be serious about doing connected television advertising, there's a window to win that they have a right to win in. But you have to move fast, and the key is interoperability, measurability, flexibility, user-centric, and when I talk about collaboration, the ability for players like Paramount and Disney and Netflix and Fox and Warner Brothers Discovery to collaborate around data.
Yes.
To improve the user experience so that consumers are not seeing the same ad 100 times a day. across all these different platforms so that consumers can personalize the experience wherever they go. If this group of companies fails to do that, they will get crushed by the big tech people who are they're on connected television. They're already dominant on connected television. And I hope that message rings true. We have to be better at collaborating, or the media ecosystem won't just change. I don't know that it's always going to change for the better.
Well, you said we have to move fast to ensure our CTV future. So, Evan Shapiro, I really appreciate brilliance quickly.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Braden, I love your mom.
Thank you. I love her too.
Okay, good answer. So your mom is Liz Blacker. I knew her from her iHeart Univision days. Your dad is Andy Blacker.
Yes.
And he said something called Rovi now, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But really, we're here to talk all about you, Braden Blacker.
Thank you. I'll try to give some value, give some tips, and share some meaningful information.
So we should set this up that aside from loving your mom and dad, and I just met you, I did hear you on a panel. And this was at the Streaming Media Conference here, run by Streaming Media Magazine. And my friend Cynthia Nelson, who knows
which I love.
Yes, we love her. She's brilliant. She was also on my podcast a few episodes back. But I love the fact that Cynthia had the recognition of all that you've done, Braden, to qualify you to be the teenager on a panel of very advanced folks in the industry. I mean, we had one of the senior executives who'd been at Walmart. We had the guy who built out MTV in 25 countries, who's now running a major AI company. You held your own and then some.
Thank you.
And after you gave us some examples, Cynthia asked the other panelists, so any comments on that? And a hush fell over the room. And she said, Braden just brought it home. You're incredibly well-spoken, so I look forward to getting into it.
Thank you. No, I really, really appreciate that. And I think what's so fascinating is I love getting to give an opinion and a point of view that's different. And it's great to come to places where it's like, wow, we're talking about media and content, but I'm the only one here in the discussion that's even in what now is content or media, which is so interesting because I feel like there will be more voices like me, but I think, it's very interesting. You look at Gary Vee, who's such a pioneer of the space that I'm in. And I think that it's super important, not just me specifically, but to have my voice and my generation, and not even if it's my age, because people can be much older and be talent agents or business strategists like what I do. But it's just great to have someone who's in the YouTube space, in the TikTok space, because that's the here and now. And all the ads, a lot of the ad spend's going to social media now and digital marketing. And digital marketing, a lot of it just means social media. So it's if you want to understand what ads are now and what media is now, I feel like it's super important that, you have someone that's in the space. And it was great to hear from people that aren't in my space, because when do we get to collaborate and communicate?
That's right.
So thank you so much to Cynthia and for you for having me. So I really appreciate all of it.
Great. All right. So now we're going to talk about how this all got started.
Yes.
Excellent. And the reason why you are so qualified to do this, despite the fact, and I hope you don't mind if I out your age, you're 17.
Yeah, I'm 17.
Yeah. So tell me who you are, what you are, and why you are.
Yeah, so that's definitely a big question. But, little summary about myself. I'll start with my childhood. So super surrounded by entrepreneurialism. My dad's made a lot of companies, had some cool exits, and was currently working at a tech startup. And one of the biggest things I didn't really notice when I was younger, but he literally let me sit on every single call. I'd listen to him pitch, literally watch him raise tens of millions of dollars for his own companies or sell a company. So I was there 8 years old watching him close $20 million into his company. That was just his idea he came up with in our living room. So amazing, almost like getting an MBA by just sitting in my living room with my dad. And then my mom has been a sales tycoon and just amazing at selling stuff, has done some of the craziest deals in, media. So learned from them, and about 3 years ago, I realized I had these two passions. One was I really wanted to make music, and I love music and entertainment. And then the second one was I want to do something that makes money, and I want to use my creativity, my passion to do something that actually makes money, because it's like, how am I going to take my creativity and actually make money from it is a question I think a lot of people deal with. So I was like racking my brain. I had no clue.
You didn't really have to know at 14.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't know. I guess I didn't know for like a little bit, but then I realized, there's this thing called influencers and content creators, and, some of them want to make music, have no experience, have no label that's coming after them, even though they have a big following. No label's interested yet because they're so small. And I realized there's kind of like this little gap in the market in between an influencer thinking about the idea of having music and then getting to actually get that record label deal and being noticed, having the millions of streams and getting, the music video with millions of views and all this engagement. So I realized that was one pocket. And the second pocket was influencers don't have as much money as I thought they did. And a lot of them, I thought were making 6 or 7 figures a month, or making like 5 figures a month, and like don't have the money to spend $30,000 on a song and spend the money it takes to make music that a major label would pay for. So they're kind of at this like weird bottleneck where it's like, I can't make music, I want to make music, but I need to make music to get a label deal.
And I need the awareness in order to get the label. Yeah, okay.
100%. So that's where I came in.
So you applied your love of
music.
Social media.
Yeah, social media, music, yep.
Okay, and as a digital native, you know more about it in your one finger than I do.
Yeah.
And so what was the first thing that you did to kind of leverage your skill and your interest?
So in terms of like my skill and interest, started with theater. I was in a band when I was 7. And when I say a band, it sounds really like childish, but like we were doing like 100, 200 person rooms in the city at like 7 and 8 years old. So really just learned no stage fright here. I was doing plays in my town, like multiple lead roles a year, which was like 100, 200 people. And on the social media side, I made my first like YouTube channel when I was 7 years old. And I was posting Minecraft videos to like maybe 50 people. But I learned how to post. I learned YouTube. I mean, the fact that I was playing with it at like 7 and 8 years old, like I didn't even know really that you could make money off it or any of that. But I was already figuring out posting and times to post and like cover photo and thumbnails and all these things. When other kids were kind of just throwing a football around, I was like figuring out how YouTube worked and like all the data and everything behind it.
So you're absorbing like life instruction on deal making at 8 years old in the back of the car, and you're figuring out best practices of social media at around the same age. All right, so fast forward now to what was your first client?
So I worked with this guy named Sawyer and helped him out. He was my first influencer client, like point blank. And me and my good friend Augie, who's an amazing producer, like working with a lot of cool artists now, spent a week in LA, and that was my first time like really like immersed in the influencer culture, because I had like been a total like tech nerd and social media guy, but before that I'd never like been to LA and meet the people, meet the creators and all this stuff. It's a totally different world. Yeah. We cooked up some amazing music and started just working with them on like the music side, and that was my first experience really like getting an influencer client. And then created my own independent music company for influencers, signed 2 different creators with like one at 20 million, one at 25 million followers. And
why did they trust a then 15-year-old?
2 things I did to establish myself. One was I worked with Sawyer to show the credibility and like do something that actually did better than his last song. So I think his last song got about 10,000 streams, and the EP we put together, which was 6 songs, got over 1 million streams.
Amazing.
So I always believe that it's better to show than tell. It just always is. So I'm a very big proof person. I always want to give proof, and this leads into everything I do. So they saw that, and the second thing was my business partner at the time was someone who was a creator. So I strategically brought him in. So he would bring in the creators that he was friends with, and then I would just streamline the whole process and like kind of CEO the whole process.
Okay. All right, so bring us current now.
So I was like, I want to do something where I'm more hands-on. The music stuff was cool, and like obviously it makes money and it's fun and whatever, but I'm like, I'm not a producer. I'm not like a songwriter by trade. Started an independent management company, started, closing a bunch of big deals for creators, learned literally everything about it, from running inbound deals, outbound deals, pitching brands, figuring out full like PR packages for different brands that want to get in, running campaigns, like multi-million-dollar campaigns that want to reach influencers, these things.
You had massive success and helped develop music artists, and then you were sort of discovered by a company called Fixated.
So there's one creator I was previously working with, and they decided that they wanted to work with that creator as well. My dad had known one of the owners of the company. There's like 4 founding partners. Zach Katz is one of the owners of Fixated. He was the head of all of BMG, Bertelmann's music group, and then he was the head of FaZe Clan, which was the first ever creator company valued at $1 billion, went public. So then he left that, and he was like, do you want to build the talent side with us? At the time, they were just a game studio, but got brought on 6 months ago to be one of the big dudes and really build the talent agency side with a couple other people. And since then, we've signed some of the biggest live streamers, YouTubers, TikTokers, and closed some of the biggest deals.
Can you name names, or is that?
Yeah, Sketch is the biggest male streamer, and then we have the Botez Sisters, who are the biggest female streamers on Twitch. I currently, do day-to-day on this guy named Asher Lara. He pulls a couple 100 million views a month and is one of the biggest Asian creators. So I manage him day-to-day. Manage another creator named Braden Blacker, who we're building up, like super small creator. But we have Love Live Serve, one of the biggest YouTubers. We just have a ton of heavy hitters. And our mindset is quality over quantity.
Okay.
Because a lot of other management companies really look at it as like, how do I sign 500 people? We much rather have 5 or 10, but have them have real companies and real revenue lines and do, bigger stuff.
So this is incredible. Just a little sidebar.
Yeah, of course.
What about school?
So I do 2-hour learning pretty much, where I go to, shout out the Socratic Experience, where I go. It's a school based out of Texas, online school. It's like tapering it down more and more, just because like I have so many meetings, so many calls, managing like 1 billion views a month, like crazy amounts of traction, and running multiple businesses. Every creator I work with has at least one business, so it's merch, products, whatever they're doing, all D2C, so it's very complicated. And so
D2C meaning direct to
consumer. Direct to consumer. Okay. So we're not doing retail or anything, so we're controlling every pipeline and every funnel.
Wow.
So I was doing 4 hours a day of school about 6 months ago, and then work just became so crazy that I moved it down to 2 hours. I have a couple hours a week that are blocked off where I meet with like certain professors that are amazing, super supportive, and I'm very close with the head of the school, Michael Strong, amazing guy, and he's Socratic learning experiences that work for entrepreneurs. The founder of Loom, which is like now a huge company, he went to my school. There's been multiple kids that went to Socratic Experience that have raised millions of dollars, had massive exits, and have done amazing things. So I'm a massive proponent of this school.
And you'll be graduating, though. You're a senior.
I'm a junior.
A junior.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Anybody can create their own path, and so this is so insightful and fascinating to hear about how you're doing it. And let's talk a little bit about how you're helping others find their path now. Tell me some examples of who you might work with or what you might do at Fixated.
Yeah, so at Fixated, I would say, my clients are everything. If you want to be a good manager, you need to wake up and go to sleep thinking about your clients. And I'm always just trying to optimize and find new opportunities that I feel like really suits them well. And it's different for every creator, right? As you said, no path is the same, no creator is the same, and different creators have different goals and different North Stars, right? I have some creators that like their dream is to have a product line, and some of them is they want to make the best video on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So like it just depends on like if they want to make a business, if they want to like take over TikTok, whatever they want to do. It's just giving them the tools and the support to execute on it and building their nucleus. I like to call the content team their nucleus of how we operate.
Okay. So what lessons can you give us that we should apply, not as digital natives, but anybody who's on social and providing content and trying to amplify that?
Yeah, I think that something everyone can really tap into is the idea of trends and trying to almost see what's happening in social media, and at the very least kind of check in, and see what's happening. I think there's a lot of great commentary channels on YouTube which really break down what's happening in social media. Nowadays you can watch a 20 or 40 minute video and it'll kind of sum up that week on social media. And I think that no matter what industry you're in, I think it's great to know, like, this is stuff that affects multi-billion, population groups. So what's happening on TikTok affects hundreds of millions of people. So it's like, whatever the trend is, that's going to affect your small business or your big business, whatever it is. Like, and you see now with a lot of the PR people at these larger companies that run the Instagram or the TikTok account, they have made comments on like my creator's posts, or they'll repost my creator stuff. Like, this one creator we work with at Fixated, this guy named Sketch, he blew up in the last month and a half, and he just did the draft pick for the Texans.
Wow.
There's so much going on
visibility.
there. Yeah, so I mean, everything is visibility. I mean, he was at the NFL Combine playing with C.J. Stroud and all the top NFL players. So, there's all these brands want to be hip. So it's like you as a person should be hip too and know what's happening.
Okay. Speaking about making content
Yeah.
and long-form video, you talked about the fact that like a Mr. Beast will
Yep.
spend months and months, as much time creating a social video
Yep.
as maybe a feature film might take to produce.
100%. I think that YouTube is becoming the cinema. And what that means is people are expecting a lot now.
Yeah.
Me and you can both tell bullshit and like good content. There's just a difference, right? Like if you go to the theater, odds are most people don't go unless it's a movie they really want to see in the theater. And that's the truth. So it's going to become a thing where it's like outside of like the top creators like Mr. Beast and other people who are really pushing the bar and elevating themselves to move with the amount of people that are on YouTube, they're going to get washed away. And one of my biggest points on the panel today was there's a reason there's only 15 creators that you constantly see on the YouTube homepage. There's only a couple creators that are on the homepage and it doesn't really move, and that's because of the quality and the time they're putting in.
Okay. You also talked about how we test things
Yep.
and rinse and repeat.
Yep.
What about that?
It's a huge, huge factor. I think that as the years go on, we're moving away from guess and check and we're going into predictability. What people want is a security blanket. Brands want it and creators want it as well. What brands want is, and what this happens every couple of months, it adjusts to now brands ask for another metric or they ask for an exact estimate of how many views the video is going to get. TikTok and Instagram, pretty easy to do. YouTube, a little more difficult because you're actually dealing with a conversion. It's all a conversion, which is, so to go into that, a major aspect of YouTube, when you think about a video and if YouTube likes you or doesn't like you, I use that term obviously jokingly, but it is kind of a thing of if they like you or don't like you. Two factors. One is something called CTR, click-through rate, and one is called AVD, average view duration. Those two things are like, is your video amazing or is it a flop? So those are the two things that matter. And going back to what you said, that's why MrBeast makes 150 different images for his thumbnail, because your click-through rate, if it's even 1% higher, for MrBeast, that's 10 million views.
Whoa.
And that could be a couple $1 million on his candy brand. So it's like, he really has to care about it.
Yeah. And how do you test all of those different thumbnails?
So there's multiple ways. The more ancient way, the guess and check is, you put up a thumbnail, you put it up for a day, you see what the CTR is, YouTube gives you a percent, they'll say 4% of people are clicking on it. You're like, oh, that kind of sucks, right? You're like 4%, you want to be 10% or above. That's like your dream scenario, near 15. So I'm like, oh, darn it, that didn't work. So the next day, in a couple days, I'll put up a new thumbnail. Oh, that's at 6%. Okay.
Same video, just change the thumbnail.
Just change the packaging. So we call it, another term is for you guys listening, it's called packaging. So that term in the creator industry refers to title and image.
Okay.
So, the video's not doing that well, let's change the packaging, would be like, okay, if the video is titled, I just bought my dog a doghouse, maybe you change it to, bought my dog a $10,000 doghouse. You're changing the title to make it more attention grabbing. And the second thing is, the thumbnail, MrBeast has changed his thumbnail from one thumbnail to another thumbnail, and it's gone up 40 million views before.
Oh my lord.
So it's a real thing, because 40 million views, like, this isn't what MrBeast is using it for, but 40 million views is at least a couple $100,000.
Braden, I'm going to ask you another two-parter.
Lay it on me.
How can we apply this for good in the world?
Yeah.
And then what are you going to do after this, like when you're 20?
Yeah, so two things. One is, in terms of putting the good in the world, I love working with smaller creators. I can't say the same for everyone in the industry that has had some level of success like myself, fortunately. You get to a point where you can work with the creators that are making 6 or 7 figures a year, and you start being like, I'm making all this money, like, do I have to work with the smaller creators? And most of them say, no, I'll just work with one big creator. I love nurturing and working with smaller creators and using the tools I have, and I think that's doing the good, because I love finding passionate creators that are small.
Excellent.
And I've done this multiple times. Like, my one friend in town, he had 0 followers on Instagram, got him to 60,000 followers in 5 posts.
And that's without like the weirdo kind of buying followers.
No, I don't. Never.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm very anti that. I'm organic growth here.
Okay.
Much
Wow.
rather have 10,000 followers and they care about you, right?
Yeah.
Than 100,000 and no one knows who you are, right?
Exactly. And so for you,
Yeah.
what do you care about? What else? What's down the road?
Yeah, so I think down the road for me is I definitely have ideas of applications and software. For me, the next step is want to build Fixated to be the biggest management company possible, keep signing great creators and working really hard for them, and creating great products, businesses, and then going forward outside of this, I think definitely I want to do more advisory stuff like this, doing panels. I love speaking and trying to give knowledge on the space. It's still so
great, by the way.
Thank
You were
you.
so
Thank
specific and helpful.
Thank you. No, I mean, look, the thing is, it's a highly developed thing for people in the industry. It's a highly not understood thing.
It meaning social media.
Meaning people don't know the back end.
Yeah.
And 99% of people don't know the inner workings. 99% of people use TikTok and they use YouTube. But most people, if I walked around this room, maybe one person knows some of the stuff I know, but a lot of them don't know. So
True.
if I can give value, because there's not a lot of people that are managing top creators and going out and trying to give value.
Yeah.
I'm a sharer, and I'd much rather give value and try to help people with it. That's the same ethos I have with working with smaller creators, because I'm not a gatekeeper, right? I much rather make applications and softwares that help people blow up on YouTube, And at the end of the day, no matter, this is one takeaway if any creators watching right now, I'd say no matter what the software is, one thing I said on the panel that I stand behind is, this is a good example. One guy in the audience said, oh, Mr. Beast content is easy, or stuff is easy. I'm like, maybe he has a high tolerance, but 6 months to a year or 2 years making a video that is 5 or 10 minutes, that's not easy to me. That's not easy to most people.
Right,
I don't think it's easy to most people, right? And it might be easy, but it's $5-10 million, right? So, you have to have the passion and the work ethic to get to a point like Mr. Beast. A lot of people are like, damn it, why am I not blowing up like that?
Yeah.
You have to put in the years, put in the work. I know I'm friends with creators that worked for 7 years tirelessly, didn't make any money. They were still working at Starbucks, working at plants, labor-intensive work.
Yeah.
And now are running multi-million-dollar YouTube businesses.
Incredible.
So stick to the path, keep working hard, and you can't give up, because if you give up, it's the same thing if Mr. Beast gave up when he was making zero money. There were years when Mr. Beast didn't make any money.
Yeah.
So you have to think about that as well, because if you haven't put in your time, if you haven't put in your college tuition, which is your 2 to 4 years of really sitting down and grinding at it, then don't complain. That's my biggest thing. Don't complain unless you've felt some pain,
You've been at this for 10 years, and that's more than many people. And so age doesn't matter. Your insights are fantastic.
And if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to my LinkedIn, Braden Blacker, or at ITSBAEBAKR on Instagram. And any questions, I'm always open to talk.
So I thank you so much, Braden.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So to wrap it up, just a little reminder that a good podcast doesn't have to be hard, but it ain't easy. I can help you launch yours, market yours, or host yours. And if you want to support this fabulous free content, you can find me at buymeacoffee.com/mossappeal, truefans.fm, mossappeal, anywhere on social media, and reach out at mossappeal.com. And a big shout out to John Clayton for the theme music. But truly, thank you for listening, learning, and sharing insider interviews with me, E.B. Moss.